Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to do a quick sound check. Somebody please tell me if the sound is okay. Had some sound problems before. Anyway, welcome back. And if you haven't heard, the Pope has died. That it was of this morning. We're going to do a Pope 88 matrix decode today. And I'm going to show you some stuff that's going to blow your mind about the number 88, his age that he died, and some other things surrounding his death on this particular day. Thanks for the sound check. So, what is going on with this? By now, you've all heard the Pope is dead. Pope Francis, first Latin American pontiff who ministered with a charming, humble style, dies at 88. Now, we've been covering this number 88, and this number alone, as it pertains to his age, wouldn't mean anything, would it? But when seen in combination with all the other number 88s that went on this year, which I'm going to show you next, then all of a sudden a picture emerges. Now, before we get into these numbers, understand that the number 88 is a portal number. It represents time and space and time travel. You know, we just yesterday they announced that Trump is now admitting that they have the ability or the technology to bend time and space. That was the Newsweek article that we covered. It was actually announced like last week, but we covered it like yesterday. And of course, Stargate AI, you know, this whole notion of a portal, a Stargate, which is what a portal is. And the origins of the number 88 go back all the way to literally the sun and moon in the sky. The sun and the moon follow what's called an analemma pattern, a figure 8 in the sky throughout the year. You can literally look up in the sky, and if you were standing in one spot and just watching the sun at one particular time in the day, each day it would move and it forms a figure 8 pattern, both the sun and the moon. And it's called an analemma if you wanted to dig deeper into that phenomenon. And this is where we get 88, time and space. But it goes much deeper because we've seen this number 88 attached to Trump, Biff, Back to the Future. And of course, we have Artemis and Apollo, the sun and the moon. They would probably represent the number 88 as well, as I just explained how that connects to the analemma. And Artemis and Apollo, of course, is linked to Trump, his moon program, Artemis, and his Apollo motif inside of his 66th floor penthouse. So there's the Trump aspect and the time travel and portal aspect. What else links this to the Pope? Well, of course, we had an eclipse this year that happened on the 88th day of the year, March 29th, just a few weeks ago. So that links up with the Pope as well. And of course, an eclipse is the sun and the moon covering the sun. But there is more to this. Years ago, we discovered that the Vatican is actually aligned precisely to 88 degrees. Here's a screenshot of it right here. And here you see the ruler. The heading is 88.33 degrees. Now, the decimal here, you could move this line and it's going to be within, 10 hundredths of a percent or whatever. But the main heading is 88 degrees. And there's the line there, the alignment of the Vatican. Now, this alignment is also shared by Washington, D.C., and the obelisk and rotunda at Washington, D.C. is also aligned to 88 degrees. Anybody can go into Google Earth and measure this yourself with the measure tool in Google Earth. So there's something to this, isn't there? Now, what else? Well, today was the day that they say that he died. And again, no one can confirm all this. I'm just telling you what they're reporting. Because what they're reporting is the ritual, right? So we have to take them at their word in terms of the ritual that they're trying to advance on the public. For all we know, the guy has died a long time ago or is still alive. Nobody really knows. What matters is the public ritual. Okay, that's what we cover on this channel. I see some people wanting to discredit all the news that we cover. Well, we're not here to cover the news as fact. We're here to cover the news as ritual and what it's doing to the American public and the world public to manipulate the minds, to shape the future that they want to create. So today is the day they say he died. Well, guess what today is? This is another date that we've covered at length. Today is April 21st, which is the 111th day of the year. And probably about a decade ago, we realized that April 21st is the mirror date of 9/11. So 9/11 has 111 days left in the year, and April 21st is the 111th day of the year. Now, this date is interesting because this is the date that Prince died on April 21st. And I believe this is also the Queen of England's birthday. And so we covered that as well. So lots of these double and triple digits. So far we have 88, we have 111. But there's even another aspect to this. When a pope dies, which is what just happened, there's what's called a conclave. And it's crazy because this movie just came out last year called Conclave, almost as though it was in anticipation of this Pope's death. How could they know? When this movie came out, Pope wasn't even sick yet, I don't believe. I mean, he might have had kidney issues at that point, but no one could have, predicted that he was going to die within months of this movie coming out. But that's exactly what happened. Conclave. Now, here's the weird part. It has 3 release dates. The third release date is on the 333rd day of the year, which is November 29th. Now, this was a leap year, 2024. So obviously it falls on the 334th day of the year, but in a normal year, the 333rd day of the year is when it released in the UK. So lots of these repeating digits, right? Now there's a strange twist at the end of this film, Conclave. This is where things get strange. I read through this whole plot. I have not seen the movie, but there are, of course, all these popes, people being considered to be the pope in the movie, because that's what a conclave is. And one of the candidates, or one of the people involved in the process, since I haven't seen the movie, I don't know for sure, but look at this. A cardinal was born with female sex organs. Now, the Bible describes this kind of phenomenon as a eunuch. And it says literally in the Bible, born that way or caused to be that way. The Bible turns it around as an opportunity to serve the Lord. If you read the story of the Ethiopian eunuch, it's kind of an interesting story. But what's more interesting is how they're bringing up this whole thing in this movie about selecting a new pope. So this begs the question, right? What better person to be an antichrist than a unisex person, which would be like a Baphomet? And so we need to keep our eyes peeled about whoever this next pope that they're going to bring in, because it's literally in this plot of the movie Conclave about selecting a new pope. Let's read the plot. It says Lawrence is initially enthused until O'Malley pulls him aside to discuss Benitez's canceled medical appointment. Benitez, when confronted by Lawrence, reveals he was born with a uterus and ovaries, but remained unaware of their existence until an appendectomy revealed them. So, the plot thickens, as they say, right? Wow. We'll keep our eyes peeled. Good morning, everybody. We'll get into some more of these stories. It's not going to be a super long show today. There's not a lot to catch up on. We did do a show yesterday morning, so if you missed that, you're going to want to check that out. Wow. So let's read here in the chat for a minute before we get into these stories. Crazy about the 88s, right? Murphy V Ninja says the transpocalypse continues. It's so crazy. When all this started, I was like, wow. But, you look around and then you have to ask yourself, it makes you wonder who's who, which side is each person on, because everything has become so confused. Now, let's read this. There may be some clues in the story about the Pope's death, so we got to read this. Pope Francis, history's first Latin American pontiff, who charmed the world with his humble style and concern for the poor, but alienated conservatives with critiques of capitalism and climate change, died Monday. He was 88. Bells tolled in church towers across Rome after the announcement, which was read out by Cardinal Kevin Farrell from the chapel of Doma Santa Marta, where Francis lived. At 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the home of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord, the Church. Okay, we don't need to read the history. Oh, it says he suffered from chronic lung disease and had a part of one lung removed as a young man. Was admitted to the hospital on February 14, 2025 for a respiratory crisis. Developed into pneumonia. He spent 38 days there, the longest hospitalization of his 12-year papacy. Emerged on Easter Sunday, his last public appearance a day before his death. So he met with J.D. Vance just beforehand. Francis performed the blessing from the same logia where he was introduced to the world on March 13th, 2013 as the 266th Pope. So there's a number there that we recognize, 266. And what date is March 13th? That sounds familiar too. March 13th is the 72nd day of the year. So let's keep reading here. From his first greeting that night, a remarkably normal good evening, to his embrace of refugees and the downtrodden, Francis signaled a very different tone for the papacy, stressing humility over hubris. So they're talking about his legacy here. Okay. Oh boy. But Francis soon invited trouble of his own, and conservatives grew increasingly upset with his progressive bent outreach to the LGBTQ. So there's the Conclave movie connection, right? Wow. And then Francis, the crowd-loving, globe-trotting Pope of the peripheries, navigated the unprecedented reality of leading a universal religion through the pandemic from a lockdown Vatican City. He implored the world to use COVID-19 as an opportunity to rethink the economic and political framework that he said had turned rich against poor. Oh, okay. So I'll put a link to this story. I'm not going to read through this whole thing, but needless to say, a very strange Pope death. Now, we're going to get into some of these other stories. Now, A Call for an Uprising did a great video exposing Jeff Bezos' rocket door. And I think the title of that video that he did was called The Oscars. And he did like a spoof Oscars show giving out awards to the actors involved in the rocket, the 6 women that went up in the rocket. And he found something that was crazy. Like, I was watching this and the rocket landed and the door opens from the inside. Now, understand, if they were supposed to be in space, that if this door literally was able to open that easily, they could have all died up there, right? And, typically you see people up at those heights and there's usually oxygen masks. Like, in fact, Blackbird pilots have to wear a full-blown oxygen mask when they're up at those altitudes. And I didn't see any of that. Now, not to say they didn't have oxygen circulating inside the cabin. I mean, if all of this was real, but I just think it was super weird that they're just like it was like a glamour rocket ride, with all their hair was all done perfect and makeup. Can't have an oxygen mask on when you got makeup on, right? I mean, the whole thing was just silly. Anyway, I bring all this up because the mainstream media is now acknowledging that something is not right with this rocket ride. Like, typically, they don't, acknowledge our conspiracy theories, do they? But in this instance, the mainstream media is now saying there's something really weird and sketchy about how the hatch opened on Katy Perry's rocket. Here it is, before Jeff Bezos was able to open the door from the outside, which is the way that every other single capsule is designed. You don't want to make these capsules able to be opened from the inside because everyone could die if someone accidentally bumps the lever, right? Not to mention, look at how thin the walls are on this thing. This reminds me of like the quote unquote moon missions. Basically, they sent up a cardboard box with aluminum on it. I mean, this is insane. So the door opens, someone realizes the mistake. They probably have like communications devices in their ear, and someone said, shut the door quick. You're not supposed to be able to open it from the inside. The door quickly shuts. Now the mainstream media did a story on it. And Snopes actually sided with the conspiracy theorists about this. Now look at Bezos. What a weird looking individual. Look at this guy. I mean, he looks like an alien. Wow. Okay, let's read this so we can laugh. My goodness. What's next? This thing looks like, you know what this looks like? It looks like a bounce house. For those of you that have kids, I went through this whole stage with my little ones, bounce houses. It was like, I don't know if they still do bounce houses, but this was a thing back in the early 2000s. All the kids loved bounce houses. And then you could throw your kid in there and leave him in there for hours so the adults could like relax for a minute. And they just throw themselves around inside the bounce house. And so now they've got adult bounce houses that go to space, right? All these women bouncing around in the bounce house. Anyway, let's read this. It says, by pretty much any account, Blue Origin's publicity stunt of sending an all-female crew into space was a major flop. The Jeff Bezos-owned New Shepard capsule spent more minutes in kinda sorta maybe space, giving its extremely wealthy passengers a momentary glimpse of weightlessness, though more in the way of a roller coaster ride causes you to shift out of your seat than in the microgravity of actual orbit. Oh my gosh. So this is now a thing, right? Adding to the drama, a peculiar moment captured during the live stream that had audiences scratching their heads, as spotted by eagle-eye netizens, and later confirmed by Snopes. The door to the capsule briefly opened inwards and shut again after it softly landed in the West Texas desert. A female employee can be seen hurrying over to the door in an apparent attempt to tell the occupants to shut it again. A nearby Bezos laughs while gazing through one of the windows. Roughly 2 minutes later, he purposefully walks up to the door to use a tool to open the capsule and greet his fiancée, even though the door could clearly already be opened. A flurry of activity, including countless camera shutters, can be heard, suggesting this was a moment constructed for maximum publicity. Even more strangely, the tool in Bezos' hand appears to temporarily make contact with the door, but didn't seem to actually engage with any locking mechanism. It was a total like photo op psyop, you guys. Oops, she didn't really close it again, a laughing Bezos can be heard saying. The moment raised plenty of questions. Why did Bezos have to use a tool to open the door if the hatch could easily be opened from the inside? Just how much of the launch was a silly rehearsed publicity stunt designed for everybody to fall in love with the favorite billionaires again? So this goes on and on. I just thought it was funny that the mainstream media picked up on this. What do you guys think about all this? Did you see Call for an Uprising's video on this? I just laughed. Wow. Now we have a conjunction that's going to happen in just a couple more days on April 25th, the Smiley face conjunction, which is a crescent moon, Venus, and Saturn. It literally is going to look like an emoji. Now, understand this was never a thing before. This is a new phenomenon. Now, we've been talking about smiley faces now for about 6 years, and noticed that it was some kind of symbolism that we had started to see throughout movies. Smiley faces mean death. They mean something bad is coming. Also, eclipse paths that we have identified that follow a smiley face pattern across the surface of Earth. And we've picked up on these things just before the pandemic. We noticed this, and then the whole pandemic was kicked off by an eclipse that looked like a smiley face over China, of all places, where this thing was supposedly had started. So the smiley faces are a thing, but nobody ever associated them with eclipses. I'm sorry, conjunctions until now. This is what they're now calling this, the smiley face conjunction. Two planets will form a smiley face with the moon on April 25th. This is what we're going to see. The moon, a crescent moon, Venus, and Saturn. If you look up in the sky in the early hours of April 25th, you just might see it smiling back at you. That's when a rare celestial spectacle called a triple conjunction will occur on the morning of Friday, April 25th. They appear close together in the pre-dawn sky, forming a triangular formation reminiscent of a smiley face. You can spot the celestial spectacle close to the eastern horizon just before sunrise. Both planets are bright and easily seen with the naked eye. But a good backyard telescope or stargazing binoculars can help you pick up details on the smirking crescent moon. It says Mercury may also be visible below the twinkling trio for those with a clear view of the horizon. Triple conjunction. So this is somewhat rare, apparently. So I don't know what this means, but just giving you guys the heads up on that. Now, what else is going on? Well, robot predictive programming. This has been going on for quite some time. They're slowly conditioning all of us to accept robots just randomly in our reality, mowing our lawns. I mean, this is right out of a movie, you guys. How many movies have they done about helper robots? Great. iRobot. There was just a new one with, what's her name? She plays like a maid in a house. And so this is a thing. Well, now guess what? In Beijing, the first robot to run a marathon. Robot hits the street against humans in Beijing half marathon. Now, this is a humiliation ritual, obviously. This robot could win the marathon easily. Let's see if they said that the robot won. But look at this. This is humiliation ritual to make humans believe and understand that robots can be superior to us, especially for physical activities where there's no need to worry about endurance because these things have infinite endurance. As long as the battery's charged, they'll run forever. Look at this guy looking at him going, oh, I guess this is going to replace us. Let's read this article and see if the robot actually won the marathon. It says the world's first humanoid robot half marathon was held in Beijing on Saturday, with the robot Tiangong Ultra crossing the finish line in a little over 2 hours and 40 minutes. Despite giving it all its circuits could handle, Tiangong Ultra was left in the dust by the fastest human finisher who crossed the line in a brisk 1 hour and 11 minutes. About 20 bipedal robots joined more than 10,000 humans. Wow, 20 robots were in this marathon. Barriers separated the robots' running track from their human competitors. Engineers were allowed to make adjustments to their high-tech proteges along the way with aid stations specifically for robots. Wow. However, instead of water and snacks, the stations provided batteries and technical tools. The race was considered more of a technical demonstration, and no robot had a real chance of winning overall. Chinese government is promoting the development of artificial intelligence and robots this year amid efforts to boost the economy and growing technological rivalry with the US. See, they always make this about a rivalry. This is how they're marching us into this new era. That is spooky. Okay, so this guy's actually watching the robot and like working on it because it's in a different lane. He's not in the marathon really. Wow. So they make it look like the robot loses at first. And then, in a couple years, the robots will be twice as fast as the humans. This is how they gradually condition us to accept all this stuff. Now, what else do we have here? Apparently, there was another plane crash. Now, why does everybody always die in these plane crashes? It's crazy because years ago, I was talking about technology to help people survive these kinds of plane crashes. But people that I knew that flew told me, well, these plane crashes are so rare. In order to survive something like this or employ technology to survive something like this, it would not be cost effective, is what I was told. Now, there are planes that literally have parachutes in the plane. But in my mind, why wouldn't you pack, parachutes for every single person on board a plane and have some kind of canopy that falls off or falls away automatically with an emergency button so that nobody would ever die on these small planes? I don't know, but I don't make planes, so I don't know the answer to that. I know a lot of it has to do with weight. And so if you've got, 3 or 4 parachutes, that's going to add a lot of weight. But I would rather travel light and know that I'm going to survive than, be just crash. This one crashed in Nebraska River, killing all passengers on board. Small plane crash in the Nebraska River Friday night, killing all 3 passengers. Crash at 8:15 p.m. into the Platte River south of Fremont, 40 miles northwest of Omaha. Bodies of 3 occupants were recovered. It was traveling along the river when it went down. That's the second or third time this has happened, right? The Hudson River, the Potomac River, these were all plane crashes in the last month. And so here's another one along a river. It makes you wonder, right? What else is at play here? I'll put a link to this story as well. Now, let's get an update of what went down at the White House. Easter. Now, this is happening, I guess, right now. Trump's White House Easter egg roll brought to you by Big Tech. So they want us to know this is our future. They're hatching in Big Tech. What better way to do it than on Easter, right? Let's see if there's anything. Elon Musk. Well, we're not going to play this video. That doesn't seem to have anything. Let's read the article here. 2025 White House Easter egg roll will take place on Monday. That's today. Event secured partnerships with Meta, Amazon, YouTube, and other companies. Well, maybe Trump can fix YouTube, right? Meta, Amazon, and YouTube. That spells May. That's next month. Big tech leaders have sought favor with the Trump administration. So everyone's bowing to the altar of Trump. The 2025 White House Easter egg roll has gone corporate. Trump and the First Lady Melania will welcome guests to the South Lawn on Monday, today, to celebrate the annual event. First hosted by President Rutherford Hayes in 1878, the White House Easter egg roll has become a tradition. It now includes 30,000 eggs. White House unveiled the full list of the event's partnerships on Friday, revealing what appears to be yet another effort by big tech to make nice with the Trump administration. Meta will provide an AI-powered experience and photo opportunity. Everything is AI now, you guys. While Amazon will provide a reading nook and a family photo opportunity celebrating reading. The acronym on family photo opportunity celebrating reading, Volker, YouTube, owned by Google, arranged the bunny hop stage. Okay, so there's your white rabbit. New York Stock Exchange also agreed to partner and provide a ringing of the bell photo opportunity. Okay, so what is that? Oh, robo. So ringing of the bell photo opportunity is robo. So it's all robots, AI, folkers. This is unbelievable. White House used event company Harbinger. Okay, so this is the harbinger of things to come to find corporate sponsors for this year's event. The outlet reported that offers ranging from $75,000 to $200,000 with logo and brand opportunities. So we have now monetized Easter. I mean, it's always been monetized, but the White House is now officially doing it. While the event has had sponsors in the past, it was previously tightly controlled. The expanded branding opportunities are new territory for the Oval Office. Oval Office, there's your egg shape. I understand that there are corporate sponsors for the Easter egg roll. Donald Sherman, Executive Director of Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, told CNN. Wait, let's see what the acronym is on that. CRE. CRE, like crazy. What I have not seen before is sort of outright solicitation and the use of the I don't even know what that word is, of the White House to give corporate sponsorship. Well, of course. We have a businessman, a multi-billionaire in the White House. Of course that's going to happen. Technology, engineering, art, and math. So TA team, that spells team. Technology, engineering, art, and math is team. Then they've got these soldiers. Wow. From like the Revolutionary War almost. Is that what that is? Boy. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Amazon founder Jeff Bezos are among the Silicon Valley titans who have worked to gain favor with Trump in the recent months. Sam Altman. So they're marching out the oligarchs again. They're running the country. Wow. So I'll put a link to this. There's probably more, but we could be here all day laughing and making fun of all this stuff because it's just silly. The acronyms alone. I mean, who makes this stuff up? In plain sight. All right, I'm in the chat, you guys. Enough fun for today. Okay. Yeah, like the video, please. Thanks everybody for showing up today. Yeah, where's Jesus in all this? Good question, Cheryl. Yeah, I mean, it looked more like a carnival than it did Easter celebration. Where was the sermon? Where was all the things that really matter, right? So, ever done a decode on demons and whistling? Oh, that's a great thing to look into because that happens quite a bit in some of these movies. You know, they depict these spirits as like whistling and, you know, singing tunes. It's almost like some kind of mockery or something. I don't know what that's about, but that's something I could look into. Yes, it was never about Jesus. You're absolutely right. It was about Ishtar. Yep, big corporate event. Ping pong bounce house, says Cannons. Rockets. Yep. Prince died on April 21st. Unless we're having a Mandela moment, maybe it changed. We did like copious decodes on the death of Prince. He died on the Queen of England's birthday. Someone's going to go check that now. Interestingly, when we did those decodes, Prince's chef actually worked for the royal family. He actually, before he went to go work for Prince, He worked for the royal family and actually prepared meals for the Queen of England herself. So it was weird when the prince died on the Queen's birthday. And he thought maybe he was poisoned. So, okay. All right. Oh, the storm blew over. I think there was one tornado warning at some point in the evening. But outside of that, everything was just fine. There was like a deluge of rain happened about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon for about 20 minutes to an hour. I think it got about an inch, 2 inches, and that was the end of it. So, all right. All right, you guys. Guess we'll pop off here unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about. Are some people saying that this is going to be the last pope? Yeah, Christy, this is very scripted. I actually did say that I thought that the Pope was going to die on the eclipse, but he made it past the eclipse. But the eclipse is still important because it happened on the 88th day of the year and he died at 88 years old. So that was still significant. Yeah, we should look at the root, the history of whistling. Who first started whistling? I'm sure that might have, that'll probably be where I start. I'll just do a Wikipedia search on whistling and see how far back that goes. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day. Love each and every one of you. And I'll likely see you tomorrow. Much love, you guys.